We're live?
Do it live. Yeah, we're live.
Okay. What is up, YouTube? It is another YouTube video. I think this is the third one I've made so far. I am doing an interview style, so it's a little bit different. I got my buddy Dylan behind the camera. Say what's up, Dylan.
What's up, guys?
So he's basically going to ask me some questions. I'm going to answer them to my best ability. We're going to go over basically the first month of this and kind of what the second month is going to entail. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You're on day 32. Phase 2 has just started for you. What does it feel like to actually be on the other side of phase 1?
The first month, it wasn't that hard, I'm gonna be honest. Like, the biggest things that I was seeing was just more of like, just getting used to doing stuff. I feel like on like the 2-3 week mark, it was like really just habits at that point where I just...
Yeah, I feel like some of them, like going to the gym and stuff, have and stretching have always somewhat been habits for you in the first place.
Yeah, the biggest difference I would say is the stretching, because that was like the thing I wasn't really doing. Going to the gym, that was super easy. Drinking water, it was a little bit difficult at first just because it was a gallon a day. So that was a small little adjustment. Mm-hmm. The three biggest things was, 1, the stretching sessions. 2 was the diet. Mm-hmm. So kind of eating very differently, which that was like the first time that I really delved into like the whole diet and like
cutting out that Cane's.
Cutting out that Raising Cane's. I love Raising Cane's, but holy cow, that hurt my body a lot. And then the third, I would say, is like the mental side of just kind of doing like journaling, reading, which I wasn't opposed to reading in the past, but I tended to not read because of it's more mentally consuming versus like mindlessly scrolling on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. So I guess 4, the biggest thing is not having social media.
Yeah, building off of that, what was phase 1 actually like for you? Forget the regular plans that you were going through, all of that. What was the reality of waking up every single day, doing the same 6 things that maybe you didn't want to do every day, but you still made yourself do it? And what did you look for in what you were doing and when you looked and saw that change?
One of the biggest and hardest changes that I personally saw was my morning routine, where before I used to wake up, and I feel like most people do this. You wake up, the first thing you're doing is you're pulling out your phone, maybe hopping on Instagram, TikTok, just something, scrolling. And since I didn't have that, I still had the habit of pulling my phone out in the morning. But what I would end up doing is since I didn't have any of those apps, is I was just kind of staring at my phone and just trying to find some sort of dopamine hit for me. And it was either I'll check my mail, which who's checking their mail at first thing in the morning?
Yeah, you only get so many interesting spam emails.
Exactly. So that was one of the weird things that I noticed, was that even though I didn't have the stimulus, it was still, I was craving it.
Mm-hmm. You talked a bit about the 6 things about how you did most of them every day, and building off of that dopamine. One of the questions that I had written down was, what was the hardest part for you? Would you say that was the hardest part of having that dopamine, having the social media or something to get your attention right away in the morning when your mind is fresh and you would have something to entertain it right away? Would you say that was the hardest part, or would it be another aspect that you added in?
Yes, to your question, it was the social media. It wasn't just first thing in the morning, it was throughout the whole day too. Because something that I used to do, and I'm sure a lot of people would also relate to, is you don't really just get on social media at certain times. It's kind of throughout the whole day, where first thing in the morning, sure, while you're in bed. Yeah. Pretty sure most people do that.
So that's you see the little break that you get at work to go to the bathroom, and you're why not hit a nice little 3-minute scroll right now?
Yeah, and that 3-minute scroll, turns into 15 minutes. 1, notice I was craving it a lot, but then 2, it also made me realize that I had more time throughout the day to actually dedicate to things that I wanted to do. But then the weird thing, the flip side of that, was that because of how much time I realized I had, I also realized I didn't have that much time in a day either. Working, I was doing my tasks, I was doing all these things. And at the end of the day, I would still be get to bed, and I'm dang, I felt like I had no time in the day still. And that was like a weird thought for me because like before when I was on social media and everything like that, I always thought like, oh, I'm just using it to fill my time and like because I have nothing better to do. Well, I've like learned that I have way better things to do, and even with the time I'm given, I still feel like I don't have enough time.
Mm-hmm.
So what that's kind of shifted for me from like with phase 1 to phase 2 is that one, I've started waking up a lot earlier than I used to. Two, I've really like made sure that my nighttime routine is like really in place as well, because your night is going to basically set you up for the next morning. So if you're going to bed at like 2 a.m., it's pretty hard to wake up pretty early because you're not getting enough sleep. So one of the things that I recently cut out was any screen time about 30 minutes before bed. So what I've basically done is I used to, like watch YouTube, watch Netflix, whatever, in bed. I've completely got rid of that. I just basically set an alarm on my phone, put my phone on the other side of the room. I pull out a book, and then I just read my book until I'm too tired to keep reading, and then I just go to bed like that. I've been waking up way more refreshed, and I feel way better at the start of the day versus like when I was like consuming all that stuff at nighttime.
And so right now you're talking a lot about the mental shifts that you've had from stepping away from social media and doing that sort of detox. Have you seen any physical changes in yourself since you started doing the 180? Or since phase 1?
Yeah, so honestly, one of the like most visual changes that I personally saw was I got more lean and also more flexible. A good example is with Dylan, you behind the camera. We went to the golf range a couple days ago, and normally like when I was doing my golf hits, maybe I'll show a clip of what I used to look like.
Swung like a robot.
Yeah, very robotic. It was very stiff. Like if someone saw me, they'd be like, dude, what the heck is this?
He used to pump fake the ball too.
Yeah, well.
Add a clip of that. I was
So yeah, but that was like one of the first times that I, outside of like the gym and outside of like my like physical stretching exercises, was I like actually realized my body was way looser and way more fluid. So that was like a aha moment for me, because I was like, holy cow, like this is actually working.
And like I wouldn't, like, for everybody listening, I wouldn't say this as like, oh, he's just swinging a club more. Like no, like he's been swinging a club for a while. And it's always been like that. Like this is the first time where it's looked like smooth and like your hips moved well with it, and everything just lined up nicely. So it was, you can see the physical changes in that. You talked about any other mental changes that you've seen in it besides?
There's been a lot, but it's kind of like that's the harder thing to track. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this point specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So with the mental changes, I'm going to start more on the surface level. Some of the biggest things that I've noticed is my attention span has drastically increased. So, before with like social media and everything like that, it was very difficult for me to stay on task without getting distracted by something. For example, cooking. I've been cooking way more now than what I was doing before. And before, what I would typically do is I would like make my food, eat my food, and then I would just kind of like let my dishes sit. I wouldn't really clean up after myself as much. And that was because like the whole process of me cooking, eating, and then cleaning, I'm like doom scrolling the whole time. So like my brain is just like mush. But now it's like no matter what, I am always cleaning up immediately after myself. Like one of the new things that I've done is like in the morning, I always make my bed, which before I never did that.
You're starting your day off in the right way.
Yeah, but like just cleaning up after yourself, like with dishes, it's like what, an extra 5 minutes? It's not that long.
No, but like you'd finish eating, you'd want to you'd already be like watching a YouTube video or something while you eat, and it's like you're already sitting down, you're done eating. All you have to do is just let it sit in the sink for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And you just go back on your phone, lay down on the couch, and just rest after eating, after the gym. And like you feel accomplished, but there's still like that one other thing that like has to get done.
It's pretty much like you do the job up to like 80%, but then the last 20% you just forget about, or you don't forget about, you just choose not to do it. But yeah, so those were like the surface level. And then diving deeper, I've been off of social media for now it's 32 days. I thought that it was going to kind of like help relieve a lot of like stress and anxiety, which it sort of did, but in a way it also exposed a lot more, because now that my brain isn't just looking for like immediate gratification all the time, it's shifted more towards me taking a deeper look into like myself, my life, the person I am, the person I want to become. And I think that that does cause like a little bit of stress and anxiety in yourself, because you're like, oh shoot, this isn't who I want to be. I could be doing this, I could be doing that. I would say like stress and anxiety like aren't necessarily good to have. I think it is important to like feel and like really dive into those,
Like
because
you have those feelings for a reason, for the most part.
exactly, like, you know, if you're feeling like a stress or an anxiety, there's something in your life that needs to be addressed and you're probably just pushing off. And that's what, like, with social media, I was using it as kind of like
It's just a crutch.
yeah, like a treatment where, so I wouldn't have to feel those types of emotions. I could just basically, like, you know, it's kind of like when you were a kid cleaning your room, you just shove them under the bed, you know? That was one of the biggest things that I personally saw was, you know,
I mean, it was an addiction.
It was.
Yeah.
But just being able to like dive deeper into my own thoughts and everything. I've also been journaling too, which before I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it's really allowed me to, like, whenever I'm feeling some kind of thought or like emotion, I'm able to like get it down on paper or in my phone, depending on what's closer. And that's helped kind of like, in a way, mentally clean my mind, because now it's less clutter in my mind, because when these thoughts do arise, I have an outlet to let them out. That's also allowed me for like people in my life, like my relationships with like my friends, my family. I'm able to kind of speak more directly, and when something is like bothering me, I kind of like say it right away. I don't let it sit in me.
Or
and,
if it's
fester.
like, or if it's something that's more of like a high stakes situation, you know, like everybody kind of has moments with families, like with their family, like where people are like button heads, and
Yeah.
if you have a way of like putting it down and like reading your own thoughts, it kind of looks like from a different point of view, it could be somebody else, and like you're not only seeing it from your point of view, you're seeing it from another family member or friend that you're also writing about, and it can point out some faults and maybe things that they've done that you haven't seen before, or how you handle things. And if the moment ever does like arise with that person, you have an idea of what you want to say. Like you've written it down, you've thought about it, and it's right there for you.
Actually, that's spot on. That's literally what I've been doing. And that's like something that I personally love, because a little background context for myself is that when I was younger, I tended to like hold a lot of like anger and like feelings
Like
in.
every good man does.
Yeah, every good man back in like the 50s, when like talking about this stuff was taboo. But like, you know, now that we're in 2026, it's like there's no shame in like having feelings and like expressing your feelings and talking about them. And I think if anything, it makes you a better man, better person, because I think holding that stuff in can only do more damage long term than any good. I'm kind of more on the mindset now where you do have those thoughts, those feelings, it's better to address them right away versus let them sit, because it's kind of like if you think about like an infection or like a sickness, if you get sick, the longer you wait to take the medicine, to do the treatment, the worse it tends to get. It's just like that with your thoughts. The point I was trying to make there is basically, when you have those types of like feelings and thoughts, you're better off trying to get them out of your brain and into the real world to either like a trained professional, or at least like a loved one, or at the bare minimum onto a journal. That alone is at least going to start putting you in the right direction. But yeah, that's for me. Those are some of the biggest things, like mental changes I've personally seen, is, you know, increased attention span. I'm also less like afraid to address and speak about like my feelings, my emotions, things of that nature. And it's really just overall helped me feel like I'm more confident in who I am, and I don't have to like hide behind some like fake mask of like, oh, I need to like act this certain way, because otherwise it's like I'm gonna like seem, you know, weak because I'm showing emotion.
Yeah. So currently you're 2 days into phase 2. What's different about it already, and what are you carrying forward, and what did you leave behind?
For the most part, it's pretty similar. Some of the big changes that I made was, one, the stretching. I kind of changed it a little bit. I don't know if when this airs, if I'm going to have that video uploaded, but basically kind of figured out one of the main issues that I currently have, which was my ankle kind of collapsed inward, which caused my knee to like collapse as well and cause extra pressure on everything, and that's why I had like knee pain. So I kind of adjusted my like strength and mobility training to address that issue. And then the other thing that I changed was I added cold showers first thing in the morning. So, you know, today I already did my cold shower and realized like, okay, like I'm finally getting to the point of this whole 180 where it's starting to get difficult, where I'm not just doing things that I used to do in the past and that were pretty easy for me.
Or like things like reading where like obviously like, yeah, I don't know about you, but like, I've enjoyed reading, and like it's something that I've gotten myself back into like for a long time. It just like never interested me. And so to like kind of like do it, I'm not doing the 180 with him, but like I pick up things here and there, you know?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it there. Yeah, so like the cold shower was like, I would say the first thing in this whole 180 that I didn't actually want to do.
Sorry, you used to swim. We used to get into a cold pool at 6:30 in the morning.
And that's exactly why I didn't want to do it.
I also hate the cold shower.
So,
but it's also like you start off your day with something hard, like something you already don't want to do. So it's like it's the domino effect in like a beneficial way instead of like a way that tears you down.
Yeah, and like this morning when I was standing there, I was staring at the shower head, waiting for it to turn on, but I knew that I had to turn it on. And like a thought in my mind was like, dude, you're going to have to do this either way. You might as well get it over with.
Can't stink all day.
And can't stink all day.
Can't stink all day.
And it was at that moment where I was just like, F it. And I just turned it on, got full blast of cold water. And then, you know, in the moment it sucked. But then immediately after, I felt so much better. And it kind of instilled a little bit more confidence in myself because I realized, like, no one was forcing me to do that. In swimming, like, you're right. Like, I used to jump into cold pools all the time. We did.
Yeah. But we'll keep the coach's name redacted for legal reasons, but he would be very upset with us if we weren't in right away.
Yeah, you know, our parents were paying for it. We're also, like, in high school we were doing it too, and, like, we had people, like, telling us to do it. This was something that specifically chose to do.
Definitely nobody was in that bathroom with you.
That's the biggest thing that I added on with phase 2. Everything else is just pretty much adding on to it, and then just, like, slight changes, you know, like with workouts, the stretching, mobility. But I think having that cold shower first thing in the morning definitely was a great add, and I am so far enjoying it after the fact. But when I'm in the moment, it is tough, but I think that's a great way to start my day, like Dylan said.
Definitely. That was a majority of the questions. Just to close this off, people are going to see this. What's something you would say to someone who's currently watching, who's thinking about starting either doing 180 with you or... You know, what's the other one? 75 hard. Doing something like that. Any advice or just like any tips, bits of information, motivation, inspiration?
So this is what I would say is if you're thinking of starting either something similar to this or like 75 hard, the minute you start thinking about it is when you should do it. You know, you don't need a perfect plan to start. You just need to start. You'll figure things out on the way. And I think most people in life, you know, they'll like watch like some motivational video, they'll like hear some motivational speech, they'll be like, wow, like I'm all amped up. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna make this great plan so I can do this thing, and then they never actually end up doing it. Maybe they make the plan, but they never start it. Majority of people at least. And the reason being is that, you know, it just like having the idea of doing something kind of gives you the reward itself, you know? Like you're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna like do this really hard thing. And like you feel good about it, and then you go and tell people, I'm gonna do this really hard thing, I'm gonna do this really hard thing. But it's really easy to say it, but not actually do it, which is why most people don't. So if you're thinking about doing it, start now. And I'm kind of an extremist, I'm not gonna lie. Like I take things to like the next level.
You're all in or you're all out.
And so I would say, you know, to people that aren't like me, just start small. Like start with something. How do you run a marathon is you have to first put on running shoes, and then you start with walking, get to running, you train up into that point. You don't just get out there and run a marathon, you know? And I think with anything mentally and physically challenging, it's the same approach where you have to basically start where it's not comfortable, but it's slightly uncomfortable for you to do, and then you just keep adding on.
Like with stepping away from social media, how much of yourself do you think has stopped comparing to other people's lives, like from what you see online?
Yeah, dude, I'll be real with you. So, honestly, with social media, there is a ton of comparison. And I was always like, oh, I'm not going to like compare myself to others.
Yeah.
You 100% do.
No, yeah, you can't help it.
And again, it's like subconsciously, like what were you saying? Like, I would say for me, comparison wise, like when I would be on social media, I would say it was probably about 20% I was consciously comparing myself.
Yeah.
80%.
80%.
80% was subconsciously. Yeah. It seems like it's kind of like a way to feel like you're kind of living through them without actually like living that lifestyle. Yeah. And I think I kind of had that issue because, you know, I like cool things. Like I like, you know, seeing cool places, cool cars, all these like cool things that people do online. And like it would make me feel good. But at the end of like the video that I'm watching, you know, if you turn your phone off,
like that car is not going to be in your driveway.
Yeah, and like you're just sitting in a dark room by yourself, you know? And then you're like, damn, like what am I doing? A lot of the stuff you see on social media is just like that, where it's all for the cameras. It's not necessarily like real world conversations, things like that. That's why like for me, like even though I do like upload, I try to keep it as like authentic as possible. Like I don't want to be like acting any different online versus like offline, which I know is like pretty hard to do because it's not natural to have a camera right in front of you. I won't lie. But yeah, I like the comparison, that definitely was like a huge thing that I would subconsciously do. And now that I'm off of it, I still do have those comparisons, but it's not in a way of how it was before, where it was like constantly having comparisons. Like now it's like when I have comparisons, it's like more of
like you feel good for the person, or like you're like, oh, like good for them.
Another nice thing is I'm comparing myself to people in real life.
Yeah.
Like people that I know.
And you're talking to them.
And I think that's like a big shift, because that also makes you realize like the people you see online are like the 0.00001% of people in life. They're not like these, like what you're going to see in the real life. And compare yourself to like normal people. It also makes you realize like some of the accomplishments that you have are actually way greater than what you like once used to think. And you realize like, hey, like most people don't even like go to the gym like twice a week. And if you go to the gym 4 times a week, you're like already better. When I say better, I just mean like you're already doing something harder than those people can't do. Comparing yourself to real people and like real people that you actually know is way more healthy, because it also shows like your tight-knit circle of like people in your general area, and it's just more realistic. And I think you should always strive to be better, but like you shouldn't get discouraged by comparing yourself to online people, because online people tend to be miles ahead of you, to the point where when you try to like reach some level similar to them, when you try to reach some level similar to them, you're not going to be anywhere near it, and it's going to be demoralizing. All right, that's all I have for this YouTube video. If you guys want more stuff like this, subscribe. I should be uploading way more YouTube videos in the next couple weeks to come. If you guys do want to follow along my journey, check out my Instagram or TikTok. That's going to be basically where I'm going to be uploading daily vlogs, and then also some other random clips that I'll upload, just thoughts and things of that nature as well. So yeah, that's about it.